Welcome to the Real View podcast, where Ohio Realtors connect you to innovators and influencers, keeping you with the real view of real estate. Whether you're a broker, agent, first-time homebuyer, industry leader, or just happen to stumble upon our podcast today, you can expect to hear tips, tools, tricks, interesting information, and so much more from the experts in Ohio's real estate game. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Real View podcast. I am your host, Allison Wiley. Joining me today, our special guest is Cheryl Sain. She's an author, veteran, and real estate broker, expert in all things land. And she is here with us to dive into this world of land, share from her experiences, what she's learned, how it's worked for her, and how it can possibly work for you. So Cheryl was born and raised in North Carolina and began her real estate career in 2001, following her time in the Air Force. Thank you for your service. She began her career in residential sales and quickly developed a passion for lots and land, while also continuing to engage in home sales to stay connected to the residential market. Throughout her career, she's encountered many residential agents, brokers, investors, and landowners who simply did not understand the land aspects of real estate. Cheryl, welcome onto the show. We're so happy to have you today.
Oh, Allison, thank you so much for having me on. I love doing these things and getting the word out to other agents across the country, hopefully, but in your lovely state, which I have visited many times in a previous career. But I'm excited about talking to you today and hoping I can help a lot of agents have a better feel and feel more secure when they come across a raw piece of land.
Yeah, very excited about this topic. It's something that, we haven't covered a lot on this podcast. So I'm excited to hear your insights, your experience, your words of wisdom, and how we can use this in our strategy. Because I know there's a ton of land that's out there in Ohio that we could be taking advantage of, making an opportunity for us. And we're going to hear all of that from you today. But before we get started in that, I'd like to hear a little bit more about you. Tell us about yourself, how you got started in real estate. I know I mentioned some of the stuff you were doing before you got into real estate. So tell us about your journey and what's led you to where you are today.
Yeah, so I've been in the real estate industry since 2001. I was actually 8 months pregnant with my daughter when I took the real estate exam. And that was a funny story because I started crying when it came across the screen. Congratulations, you passed. And the guy thought I was going into labor. And I'm like, no, I'm just so happy.
That's funny.
But I have 3 children. I live in just outside of Charlotte in North Carolina. Been here my whole life, except when I was doing real estate, and I was a regional manager for a hair and skincare company for a year or so. But got back into Charlotte and wanted to do something and decided real estate would give me a lot of flexibility. And I just have a natural knack for sales because I love it and I love people. So I got into the business and had 3 small children. So it was super difficult changing diapers in the back of a minivan. And I thought, I got to do something else. So came across an agent that specialized in land and asked them if I could follow them around and learn the business and everything. And we ended up becoming partners for a while. And over the years, I just realized the more I got into real estate and finding land or listed land, I could tell within 5 minutes that the agent didn't know what they were doing. And so I would spend literally hours on the phone explaining to them, okay, you need to find out where the water and sewer is, what the zoning is, and stuff like that. And they were just clueless. So I thought back in about 2017, I thought, you know what, I'm going to make a checklist for residential agents. When I come across it and they don't know what to do, I can just send them this checklist and say, here, fill this out, send it to me. And then that way I'll have the information I need. Well, they were clueless with that. So I thought, okay, maybe I need to make it more of a guide. And then eventually it turned into a book. And a lot of my friends that know me in the industry asked me if I would teach. And I was like, no, I'm not interested in teaching. And so they kept pushing me, and I ended up getting my instructor's license or certifications in North Carolina, which, by the way, if you know anything about North Carolina, they are the toughest state to get a course passed or license or anything. So if I had known what I was in for, I probably wouldn't have done it. But I did, and it's been a blessing. I turned my book into a course, a CE course for North Carolina, and started teaching it. Actually, developed an online course first, and people started asking me if I would teach it in person so they could ask me questions. And I said, "Well, I'll give it a shot." And had about 15 agents, and we did our first class, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, this is awesome! You've got to do this more." So I started teaching more, and unbeknownst to me, my course was put up for an award. I didn't even know, and I won it. I won the North Carolina State Award for best online course or best course. And then in 2024, it won a national award for the REA, Real Estate Education Association, that I didn't know I was put up for that either. So it's been such a blessing. And I love teaching, and I had no idea how much I was going to love teaching. So the things that I teach about are not just about land because, and this is so funny, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So I'll be in a class and I'll say, okay, raise your hands. How many are like, I don't sell land. I don't need this course. And you'll have one or two. And I'm like, okay, so where do the houses sit that you sell? And they're like, oh, I said, yes, they sit on land. You need to know what's in the dirt and where to find the information. And time after time, again, after teaching, I get such great reviews about the course. And it just reinforces that this information is needed so badly across the whole country, actually. So another quick story, and I know you can stop me anytime because I can talk.
Oh, I love
it. When I started teaching, to get myself comfortable so that I'm not nervous and stuff like that. I mean, you wouldn't look at me and think I'm nervous about anything, but when you start teaching, it's a different story. And so I would come early to class and I would walk around the class and say, hey, what firm are you with? And how long have you been doing real estate and that sort of thing? And several times over the past couple of years, there would be people from the general public there. And I'm like, well, why are you here? And they're like, well, I ordered your book. I found it online and I saw that you teach locally. So I wanted to take the class. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I should repurpose the book. So I took the book, 10 Things You Need to Know About Land, which is what the real estate agents need. And I address it as if I'm talking to you and your clients and that sort of thing, and how you address certain situations. And I took about 6 months and I reworded it for the general public. And I retitled it How to Buy, Sell, and Profit with Land, because there's a lot of people out here that have inherited property. They have no clue what they have or where to even start. And those are the people I really love helping, because you can have someone who's very knowledgeable about land, a developer or a builder, and they'll come in and nab it out from under them, and they have no clue what they have. So it's been such a blessing to teach all these agents and stuff. And I really have a passion for teaching the residential agent, because they are not exposed to what me as a commercial broker and selling land is on a daily basis. Stuff that just comes natural to me, like brushing our teeth. They're clueless about. They don't even know they don't know what they don't know. So I've been teaching now for probably going on my 3rd year. And I haven't really promoted myself, but like yourself with Ohio, I've got other states that are calling me now to start teaching this course to their agents too, so that they can become better agents and, be more confident with their clients and that sort of thing. So that's kind of how I got started. I hope I didn't take too long doing that.
No,
but
you were
I absolutely
perfect.
love it.
I love that, and so glad you decided to get into teaching. I think you brought a ton of education, of knowledge, insights to the industry, and you're making agents better and stronger, and that's what we need, and more able to serve your clients. And you said that, and I think that that's so amazing that that's what you love to do, and that's what you love to help your agents do. And that's really why we're all in this game, right? Is to help our clients, is to make their lives easier when they're buying and selling real estate and land. So kudos to you for the successes that you've had so far. And yes, I think this is absolutely a needed topic in the industry that, as you said, agents aren't super familiar with. And that's why we're here today, to help them get a little familiar and learn some new skills that they can bring to the table. And also just have this as an extension of your business. Like, I think if this is something, that you can add into your toolbox, as you're buying and selling, homes and properties and all that stuff, if you could add this, I think that is a huge bonus for your business. And it sounds like that's something you've been able to find too, is you were able to make this into your everyday strategy and focus on it and really have major success with it. I'd love to hear a little bit about maybe some of your successes with it, how it's worked for you, and kind of what's been your secret sauce as you've done this for so many years.
Well, and thank you for asking me that. So when I started over 20 years ago and I was getting into the land part, there was maybe less than 1% women that did land.
Yeah.
It's mostly male dominated even today, but through the classes I'm teaching, I'm seeing more and more and more women get into land. As a matter of fact, most of the people that come to my classes are women, and which is funny. And like I had a gentleman that had been doing real estate for 60 years. I always say who's been doing it the longest because I'm curious to see how many people there. And he called me up after class. This was a couple of weeks ago in South Carolina because I also teach in South Carolina. And he said, Cheryl, he said, the thing about your class, he said, I had forgotten a lot of those things. He said, and I just took for granted, me as a broker in charge, that my agents knew this stuff. He
Yep.
said they don't, because his son and his daughter were sitting beside him in class. And after class, they said, Dad, we didn't know a lot of this stuff. And he just assumed they did. And so it's great that I can help them to learn, or at least as a reminder of things they should be looking out for. But, some of the things that make this a successful class is I give real life experiences of the things that I've messed up with, where I've gotten my hand slapped before on things that I shouldn't have done or should have taken more time to research before I sent information to my client. One of them is, and this happened young or early on in my career, is I had my daughter was at a babysitter and I went to pick her up one day and she said, Cheryl, my husband and I had bought a lot a couple of years ago, and we would like for you to list it for us. And I was like, oh boy, okay, because I'm a new agent. I'm so excited. So they gave me a copy of the survey. I listed it. And because of the area that I was in, it was not that developed yet. I knew the local builders that were doing some custom homes and stuff, and I knew the neighborhood. And I called up this one builder and I said, hey, I've got this lot that I've just put on the market. Would you be interested in it? And he says, where is it? And he goes, oh yeah, I know that neighborhood. Yes. Let me run over there and look at it. And he did. And he said, yes, full price offer. Let's go. And I was like, oh boy, I'm a dual agent. I'm so excited because that doesn't happen often, And so about a week into it, he calls me up and he says, Cheryl, what are you trying to pull over on me? And I said, oh my gosh, what are you talking about? He said, where'd you get the survey? I said, I got it from the seller. And he said, well, we got a problem. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, I'm looking at the plat, which is the large, it's like a large tract of land that's subdivided into lots or plots. He said, I'm looking at the plat, and this plot or lot is the one they use for the debris burial pit. I said, what? And back in those days, and this was an older neighborhood, instead of hauling things off to the dump and stuff like that, they would dig big pits on probably like the last or the worst lot. And they would put branches and stumps and things in there, and they would cover it over with dirt, and they just let it sit and hope, that it biodegrades well. So this was that lot. And so I said, well, how did you see that? And he said, it's clearly on the survey, debris burial pit. And I pulled out my survey. I said, it's not on here. He said, I know. He said, what, why? And I'm like, oh my goodness. So I said, look, don't worry about it. We'll terminate the contract. You don't have to mess with it. But it was like a 2-acre tract. So there was, he said, look, I think I can find enough land on this lot to build a house, but I need to get permission to do some borings. And so a boring is a boring machine you bring out as a big thing with a pole, and you hammer it into the ground and you get samples of soil out. And I said, well, let me get permission from the seller. And so I called up the seller and I said, listen, I said, we got an issue here that we got to deal with. Where did you get your survey? She said, oh, that nice man that sold us the lot gave me the survey and said we didn't need to spend any money on getting a new survey. And I was like, well, we got a bit of a problem here. And so she gave permission to do the borings, and she came out there every day and prayed over that lot. It was the funniest thing. So because the lot had been sitting there for a long time, They actually didn't find anything in the soil, which was amazing. But the soil was bad. It was had some bull tallow in it. If you know what that is, that's bad soils. A lot of agents have never even heard of that. And
Yeah.
so I explained that in my course and everything to him. And so he ended up building a house there. He had to put it on piles or pylons or whatever you want to call them, like down at the beach to support the house. But it turned out to be a good thing. They had to the seller had to reduce the price of the lot to cover the boring machine and doing the samples and stuff like that. It's turned out great. But those are the kind of things that help me to reinforce the importance of having a survey on every property. And they're like, yeah, but it's so expensive. I said, but wouldn't it be better to know up front that everything's good instead of selling the lot and then your client get upset with you? And also, too, I teach the agents. I said, don't order surveys for your clients. I said, because you'll get stuck paying the price of that survey if they terminate and things go south, which has actually happened, which is one of the reasons I tell agents about that. I said, you just give them some people to call. You let them do all the ordering. You don't do that. And so I have a lot of little rhymes and stuff that teach the agents ways to remember things in my class. But that's just one of many stories that I have. And a lot of the stories, of course, are from experiences I've had. In the book, I tell a lot of different stories. And that's one of the things the agents love most is the stories, and that I'm not embarrassed to say, hey, I mess up just like everybody, and here's
Everybody
what I
does.
don't want you to do because I've already done it. And they love that about it. And I have a good time teaching. It's a fun class. It's a fun way to learn. I don't stand up behind the podium. I'm walking and pacing the whole time because it's a 4-hour class
Mm.
that is so packed with information. I don't have time to do like, let's do a little exercise and stuff like that. And the biggest comment that I get is, we wish the class was 8 hours because you've got too much information to give in 4 hours. It's way too much information for us to, take. And I said, well, that's why you buy the book.
Yeah. No, and I think that's so true. And even just like hearing you talk about this, there is so much that needs to be learned. And, it does probably take a lot of time to go over everything that these agents need to know. Because like you said, most of them don't even know like basic knowledge. If you want to get involved in this and started with this, like where should agents start if they want to begin working with land, begin understanding this more? I know your books out there are an amazing resource, but how do we get started? What's the best way to kind of dip our toes into the water if this is something that realtors want to get involved in?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that because one of the things that I talk about early on in the course, because it happened to me, is when you come across a piece of property. For example, let's say you sell a house and you do a great job. And your seller says, you know what, my Uncle Bob down the road is wanting to sell, 5 acres of his property. Would you do that too? And then the agent's like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. Or let me refer it to the land guy in the office, which is what the brokers always say. Just give it to the land guy in the office because it's too complicated. And the only reason it's too complicated is because 9 times out of 10, the broker in charge doesn't know land themselves.
Right.
And so they don't want the liability. So they just say, just give it to the person who does land all the time. But how are you ever going to learn if you keep giving it away? So what I tell the agents to do, I said, you find the land guy in the office and you say, hey, when I get an opportunity, I would love for you to mentor me. Can we do this deal together and share the commission? But I want you to teach me and let me go to all the meetings and things like that. Because that's how I learned. When I was first starting out, I had no clue of what I was doing with land. And so this broker allowed me to go to the meetings, and I sat off to the side and I wrote notes. Like, I didn't know what a lot of the acronyms were. And so I would get out of the meeting and we would sit there together. And I'm like, well, what does this mean? Well, what does this mean? Well, why did they say that? I don't understand this. And they would mentor me and teach me these things. Another suggestion I would have to tell everyone is to start attending the municipality meetings. Like when you have, wherever you live, they're going to have their council members are going to meet and their planning boards. So that's the best way for you to find out what's coming in your area. You go to these meetings and you can listen to them talk about neighborhoods that are being developed, or maybe a commercial building's getting ready to come in. And what I tell agents also is, look, by the time you see the coming soon sign in the dirt for a neighborhood, it was started 2 years before that minimum. sometimes 3. And I said, so you've got to, I challenge everybody at the end of the course and I say, okay, 1 day a week for the next month, I want you to drive a different route every day. I said, because if you drive the same path every day, you're not going to notice anything new. But if you take a back street or a different route to the grocery store, or your church, or the workout gym, or wherever you're going, and you'll start to notice things differently. You'll notice new signs coming in, or maybe a for sale by owner, or look, this new neighborhood's coming in I didn't even know about. So that's a way for agents to learn the process of land and what's coming. And by going to those meetings, they get used to the verbiage used, which helps them to be a better agent when they're working with their clients, especially clients that have inherited property. They can help them so much. Just, a lot of the agents now are buying the book that I repurposed, How to Buy, Sell, and Profit. They're giving that to their clients to let the clients read and do their own homework, which, as you well know, a educated client or customer is so easy for us to work with because they're doing a lot of their own homework.
Yep.
So, but that would be a great way to start. And to just start looking for classes with land or anything that has to do with land or well and septic, water and sewer, zonings and things like that, which there's not a lot of, honestly.
Yeah, no.
I always tell the agents too, the Realtor Land Institute, which is a nationwide program, is really good. It's an involved program and there's several classes in it. But if you really want to know land and be a good agent, and of course the CCIM designation, that's like getting your master's degree in real estate. That one's a tough one. That's a tough one. Anytime I see a CCIM behind somebody's name, I'm like, you are awesome. You are awesome.
Lauren, you mean business.
I hope that answered your question.
It did. No, that was awesome. And I just feel like this is such a big opportunity, especially with inventory, being as tight as some of the levels that we're seeing now. This is a great way to kind of offer that to your clients. If you have buyers, if you have sellers, like this is such an amazing strategy to kind of have in your back pocket, especially as we think about ways to be more innovative and how to kind of help with that inventory crunch we've been experiencing.
Well, and you'd be surprised at how many customers actually have property that they've just been sitting on for years and they don't mess with it. They just pay the taxes on it. And, I teach agents how to educate your client. If you've inherited a piece of property, does it qualify for an agricultural zoning designation or because that will lower the taxes greatly. And, is it in a floodplain? Is it, all of these things we go over in the book. As a matter of fact, I can quickly read you the chapter titles so that your audience will understand what we actually cover in this. Locating and using the GIS. I was teaching a class, about 2 or 3 months ago, and there was actually an agent in there that had never used the GIS. I'm like, how's that possible? Okay, so chapter 2 is who are the legal owners of a property. That's so important to find the right owners. And there's a lot of fraud going on right now with land and vacation homes. I don't know if y'all are experiencing it like we are in North Carolina, but it's tremendous. And you've really got to double check everything. Chapter 3 is discovering land conditions. We go into everything, especially rollback taxes. A lot of agents have never heard or experienced rollback taxes. That is huge. That can kill your, reputation.
Yeah.
Understanding deeds is chapter 4. Chapter 5 is what are surveys and why are they important? Chapter 6 is what is land zoning and density. Number 7 is soil. Number 8 is water and sewer versus well and septic. And chapter 10 is land locations and things to consider. And I also have a land information sheet for agents to download. And, if they don't know what to do, it's a starter. But, you're always adding to that because every deal, just like every house, has its own issues and things you want to address or need to address. And some of them are different than others.
Yeah. So very comprehensive. It sounds like you cover, a ton in that. Very great overview, everything that you might need to know. I feel like this is just such a great option that every agent should be aware of, even if you don't do it a lot. And I think, that's, something to mention too. Like it might not be something that you're doing on a regular day basis unless you become a Cheryl and that is, all that you're doing. But, even just being able to do it when you need to, or when you come across an opportunity. I think it's so important to have this knowledge and to be ready for it. And like you said, you never know who's out there that has land and they just have it, as you mentioned, and they don't even know what to do with it because they don't, they're not even aware of the options and possibilities when it comes to this. It's such a huge opportunity to be taken advantage of, and learning it and staying on top of it, is really, really important if you really want to advance this and make it a part of your strategy. So I just think it's really smart and something that everyone should be, investing in, researching, at least knowing the basics to be able to help your clients when that becomes an option. I think is really just a great opportunity.
Yeah, or just knowing where to locate information alone, even if you don't use it every day, having a resource to say, where can I find this information, is so important, because agents don't know what they don't know. And they usually learn from hard lessons, because of things that happen. So I try to prevent them from making bad decisions, or helping them to find a way to look up information that they may not be being trained on.
Yep.
So I'm hoping to take the course across the nation to everyone. So available.
What's next? What's next for you? What's next for the training? How can we get the word out to all these realtors who desperately need this information?
Oh, well, yeah. So I had an online course, and it was with a third party, because we have to go through a learning management system. And they were in the process of changing platforms, and they were having all kinds of issues for about a year. So my course was offline for about a year, and I couldn't wait any longer. So I've been working with a new group, hoping to finish it up here this next week or two and get it back up and going again, so that anybody can take it. You may not get CE credit for it if I'm not approved in your state yet, but just the knowledge alone is worth it. And the course is very inexpensive. And, I have a lot of people say, Cheryl, this course really needs to be several $100s. And I'm like, no, I want as many people to take this, because agents need this help so bad. I'm going to keep the price as low as I can to help to educate them. And that's really my passion, is to teach everybody this stuff. I get calls all the time, every week, from agents in different states and stuff. And I help them when I can. And if I can't, I tell them. And they're like, well, you're the expert. I said, no. I said, I'm only an expert in what I know, just like you are.
I love that.
I said, but I will sure steer you in the right direction of where to find the information. And I know that there's a lot of states have they call their municipalities and things different names, but all of the information is that you research is the same. It just may be called something different in your state. So that's where that's a learning curve that I've got to get better at myself. But just getting the word out right now to, here's a class available for you on it. You may not get credit for it in your state, but by golly, the information is it's good and you need it. So that's my goal right now. And eventually I would take this to the public. I still work. I just put 120 acres under contract with another developer a couple weeks ago. So I am still a working broker all the time. And I do still sell houses, because I've been doing it for a long time. And I have several houses on the market right now, but because I've done it for so long and my clients and friends know that I can sell houses, they still try to get me to do that for them. And I will, as favors. But my love and my passion is education and land is my passion. So
we love it. And that's why you were here with us today. So I want to thank you again so much for joining on. Thank you for sharing a little bit about you and how we can make use of land in our careers. And thanks for being so willing and open about sharing all of this with the realtor community. I know we have so many benefits to this. So many realtors can take advantage of it, something that we should all be sharpening our skills on. So thank you again so much, Cheryl, for joining me. And I really appreciate it.
Oh, gosh, my pleasure. Anytime. If you want to get into any more details, like specific subjects on land, and just talk about one thing, I'll be more than happy to do that, because I really have a passion for educating people. So thank you so much, Allison. I really appreciate you inviting me on here, and I hope this helps your customers and your agents that you're reaching out to.
Absolutely, it did. So thanks so much again, and to all of our listeners for tuning in today. We appreciate you guys. We will be back with you next week. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to The Real View. That wraps up today's episode. You can keep up with the latest on the podcast at ohiorealtors.org/therealview. and on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Have questions, comments, or suggestions? We want to hear from you. Email us at podcast@ohiorealtors.org. We'll see you next time.